Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. So this show today is dedicated to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was assassinated 57 years ago today. This was the day after he gave his famous speech, that mountaintop speech, where he said, "I have seen that we as a people are going to get there. I've been to the mountaintop. I may not get there with you, but we're going to get there." And the next day, he was assassinated by an assassin's bullet. And also, we're going to remember his assassination today and honor it because the shedding of his blood is what brought more freedoms to us. But also, it is a reminder that we must be fearless in the face of tyranny, in the face of oppression, in the face of hatred, in the face of authoritarianism. We must be fearless. And there are people out there who are exploiting that fear, who are causing us to want to sit home and do nothing and sit out the resistance that must be done to Trump's agenda. Because they're at it again. The same people who told us to sit out voting, they're at it again. There is this huge disinformation campaign going on to keep African American people in fear about resisting what Trump and MAGA are doing. Just like there was disinformation going out that kept a whole lot of black people from voting. Based on the data that I have, some 17 million African-American people did not vote. And these were eligible African-American people. And the data is pretty clear that those folks could have voted, could have registered, could have voted. Some of them were already registered and didn't vote. And many of them were under the influence of disinformation. And here we go again. Don't resist Trump. Don't resist MAGA. All over social media, people are being advised to sit your behind down. Of course, they use a cuss word. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that we're so gullible to disinformation. It's amazing. But over the past few weeks, we have been blessed to see courageous African Americans standing up to Trump, to MAGA, to Musk. I'm going to share a couple of videos with you in just a moment. But the real encouragement for me comes from our ancestors who face much worse than anything that we could experience today. And they stood and faced down evil. And here we are afraid to resist a movement that is targeting us. So we're going to hear from three people who advise us and show us and demonstrate that we cannot be afraid, that the stakes are too high. Three people that I admire quite a bit. former Vice President Kamala Harris, Representative Jasmine Crockett, and Senator Cory Booker. So first, let's listen to former Vice President Kamala Harris.
When one person, when a few stand with the courage, that is the courage exhibited by the leaders in this room every day, to stand, to have the courage to say, I feel fear. The courage to say what is happening is wrong. The courage to say that there is a way that we must chart to get through this. Understanding our power in the democracy we still have if we hold on to it. Courage is contagious. We are seeing organizations stay quiet. We are seeing those who are capitulating to clearly unconstitutional threats. And these are the things that we are witnessing each day in these last few months in our country. And it understandably creates a great sense of fear. Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things, I'm not here, so I told you so.
All right, so you just heard from the Vice President Kamala Harris. Good to hear from her. She had been missing for a little while. I guess she was recuperating from the 2024, I'm telling you, very taxing campaign and election, right? Unfortunately, she didn't win, but I got to agree with her. First, on the point of being courageous and fearless and fighting back, but also when she said, laughingly, we see she hasn't lost that laugh, that I don't want to say, I told you so, but I told you so. And yes, she did. And so did I. And so did many others. Warn America what would happen if Trump was reelected. And it's coming true, just like we said. All right, now, let's hear from Representative Jasmine Crockett. Here she is.
Let me tell you, one of the things that the chairman and I actually agree upon, we don't agree on a lot, is that we both know that there has been a sharp incline as it relates to threats upon our lives. Regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, we both know and agree that as sitting members of Congress, we both are enduring more death threats than anybody should in this country. And I believe that it is because of the divisive rhetoric and it is because of the selective enforcement of things. And so when we have, and I'm gonna be clear because I had remarks and I'm going a whole other way. To have the sitting attorney general go on, and I'm gonna call it faux news. I know some of y'all love it, but it's fake to me. To have her go on Fox News and to then decide that she wanted to send a threat to me, it was wrong. Because here it is, she is the highest law enforcement agent in this country, and people are watching and they are consuming this information and they are believing that simply because I decided that I wanted to exercise my right to free speech, which I am not abridged from doing, that she then wanted to then politicize something that should not be politicized. I don't like Elon Musk. I'm gonna say it 50,000 times. I don't like him. I don't like that he going out there and he firing people. I think that he's a crook because somehow the rest of us can't sit around and get whatever federal contracts we want. The rest of us can't sit around and get law enforcement and get them somehow ordained as federal law enforcement to protect him. The rest of us can't get our dealerships protected by the federal government. That is somebody that is operating above the law. For whatever reason, just because he has a lot of money, more money than everybody else. And yes, I am happy to see that on my birthday, which is what I said, there were peaceful protests around this world against him because he is a problem. And so you never should have somebody that is sitting that high and is going to sit up here and threaten a sitting member of Congress when she knew good and well, if she watched the entire thing, that I specifically told protesters to make sure you consult with lawyers, just like I've told protesters over and over and over in the history of me advising people to go out and exercise their constitutional right. The fact that there are other sitting members that have received letters of threat from this new DOJ tells me that they are about retribution and they are not about following the law. The reason that our party, or I won't even say our party, our country is torn apart is because we can't even agree on right versus wrong. This should not be left versus right. The only thing that we're asking is that we have law enforcement that will show up when there is an actual crime. If somebody calls and says, hey, I need you to investigate this cyber crime, or I need you to investigate this child pornography, or I need you to investigate this robbery, then we want somebody to show up, and we don't want them to look at us and act as if just because I'm black or because I'm woman, that I am not worthy of having that case investigated, because we have an administration that is continuously railing against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or we don't need people that show up that feel like diversity should not be valued. That is why we should have somebody that may show up and looks like me. The final thing that I'll say, because you've been gracious, is this. When I first became a public defender, I had no criminal defense experience. And I walked in and I told my boss, Charlie, I said, listen, you should hire me. He said, why? I said, because I'm black. Charlie looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, let me tell you something. When I walk in, I'm going to walk in with a level of rapport and understanding that maybe some of my other colleagues will not. Charlie offered me my job, and I worked my butt off, and I worked really, really hard for all of my clients, not just those that look like me, and that is what it looks like to serve. Thank you.
I wanted you to hear every bit of that. I wanted you to see that for yourself, because that is the spirit of our ancestors. That is what Fannie Lou Hamer did. That is what Harriet Tubman did. Just imagine Harriet Tubman going into the South during slavery and leading people into freedom. That's what you saw right there. That is the spirit of Barbara Jordan, Shirley Chisholm. That's the spirit of these awesome African-American women who looked power in the face and spoke to it. Because here she is speaking to the sitting Attorney General, Pam Bundy, with no fear, no trepidation. Here she is speaking to the richest man in the world, expressing on the record that she does not like him. And she said, I will say it 50,000 times. That means, and we know what that means as black people, that means I really mean this. So regardless of the blowback, regardless of whatever they could do, she spoke truth to power. Let her be your example. We cannot afford to be silent right now. We cannot afford to be in fear. We got to speak out. We got to speak up. These times are completely unusual. They're not like just regular times. Now, they're still nowhere near what our ancestors faced during slavery, but they are the worst that we've dealt with in 100 years. Because our democracy is at stake. And we don't do well in totalitarian, authoritarian, autocratic governments as minorities. So bravo to Representative Jasmine Crockett for being fearless and for speaking up and speaking out when it needs to be done more now than ever. And then we all witnessed the history that Senator Cory Booker made just a couple of days ago when he destroyed, obliterated that evil record set by Strom Thurmond, who was trying to keep the Civil Rights Act of '57 from being passed. And we saw Cory Booker stand up for over 25 hours and speak truth to power. Again, we cannot afford to sit this out as you're being advised. We can't afford to do it. I'm warning you. Once again, I'm warning you. Now let's listen to Senator Cory Booker here.
But I know who does have the power. The people of the United States of America. The power of the people is greater than the people in power. It is time to heed the words of the man I began this whole thing with, John Lewis. I beg folks to take his example of his early days where he made himself determined to show his love for his country at a time the country didn't love him, to love this country so much, to be such a patriot that he endured beatings savagely on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, at lunch counters, on freedom rides. He said he had to do something. He would not normalize a moment like this. He would not just go along with business as usual. He wouldn't know how to solve it. But there's one thing that he would do that I hope we all can do that I think I did a little bit of tonight. He said for us to go out and cause some good trouble, necessary trouble, to redeem the soul of our nation. I want you to redeem the dream. When our founder said we must mutually pledge to each other, our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We need that now from all Americans. This is a moral moment. It's not left or right, it's right or wrong. Let's get in good trouble. My friend, Madam President, I yield the floor.
That right there was one of the proudest moments in my life, just being a part of that, seeing that, watching him do that. As I've said already many times, that was iconic Cory Booker. He was the perfect person to do that. And I think some of you have said it was just symbolic. No, 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 no. You're just a naysayer. And you're short-sighted and you're not very deep. That was extremely effective. And that galvanized the country and a lot of people across the world. Hundreds of millions of people witnessed that black man not only break that record, but for 25 hours express precisely what is at stake. With Trump and Musk and MAGA at the helm of the leadership of this country. No, folks, we cannot afford to sit this out. Don't be bamboozled like so many African Americans were bamboozled about voting, and that got us what? 4 more years of Trump. It's deception. What was it about voting? Don't vote to hurt the Democrats. What is it now? Don't protest to hurt white and Latino people. Trump will invoke martial law. Stay home. Trump will invoke martial law. Truth is, when we don't vote and when we don't resist and protest, it hurts us first and the most. It hurts us disproportionately. Plus, there's a whole lot of fear-mongering here. A whole lot of fear-mongering. And folks, when I tell you that we're subject to lose a lot, trust me here. For example, already we've lost many federal jobs. We've lost DEI. We've lost health care. We've lost civil rights enforcement because they're closing down civil rights offices throughout various federal agencies. We've lost the Department of Education. We've lost the EPA. All these things are very, very, very important to us as African Americans. We've lost scholarships. We are losing the National Black History Museum. I mean, serious business. That one there in D.C. We've lost Head Start. We've lost the chances of obtaining reparations. If you believe that this group of people would ever approve reparations, you are really, really not very smart. Now, I know that's what people were telling folks, that don't vote so we can hurt the Democrats so we can get reparations. And in not voting, MAGA came in office, who absolutely will never give reparations. What else have we lost? Low student loan payments. Student loan payments are skyrocketing. Freedom of speech. Democracy. We're losing every day a little bit more and a little bit more of our democracy. I know it doesn't seem like much is happening, but a whole lot is happening to take away our freedoms. And we could lose, likely losses, our Medicaid benefits, Medicare benefits, Social Security, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act. and a whole lot more that we're likely to lose. Why? Because, as I said, approximately 17 million African American people voted the couch. Eligible black voters voted the couch. And now they're running game on us again. Don't resist. Don't protest. Stay home. This is the white man's fight. This is the Latino, Hispanic person's fight. No. This is all Americans' fight. And the ones who will lose the fastest and the most will be us African Americans. We cannot afford to sit this out. This big march that's going on, April 5th, we cannot sit it out. We cannot. We got to do our part. All right? So I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And stay woke.